this letter?
Call from Lieutenant Sam Cooper.
All right. Yeah, I'm sorry, but I do everything on the phone. I don't even know how to turn a computer on.
That's okay.
I can project over the phone that this is somebody I want to help. See, that's the thing. I'm sure you know most of my money that goes to charity because nobody has ever been able to tell me how I was going to take it with me. That I've never seen an armored car in a funeral procession.
This is Dick Rathgeber. I had the pleasure of speaking with this iconic philanthropist now in his early 90s who has given more than half of his lifetime income, over $200 million, back to nonprofits and the community. He has shaped neighborhoods like Lost Creek, Avery Ranch, and Headwaters, and he has just as profoundly shaped Austin's nonprofit landscape. He may ask me to speak up a few times during our conversation, but his quips are sharp, his confidence unshaken, and his wisdom is a gift from decades of experience. And don't let the digital divide fool you. He hasn't slowed down. He's still making deals, like in his most recent work as co-founder and board vice chair of Austin Helps Honduras. Hi, I'm Stephanie Dyer, host of Escape Into a Cause, the podcast where you get to join me in learning about the nonprofits and people shaping Central Texas. At the end of our interview, Dick made me promise I'd read his book after giving me a copy, so I did. And after reading Deal Making for Good, Smart Giving Equals Significant Living, I have to say that I'm impressed. Great read for Austinites, philanthropists, and deal makers alike. Dick loves the deal. You'll notice throughout this episode, it's a game for him. But what's remarkable is how he's turned that game outward, making deals for the community. Dick is one of Austin's most influential philanthropists, a man whose generosity has literally changed the map of our city. Beyond neighborhoods, he's built a legacy of generosity, funding the Downtown Salvation Army in the 70s, donating land to double the Austin shelter for women and children, and later gifting the land for the Rathgeber Center for Families, a $6.4 million emergency shelter complex that opened in 2020. He has even been recognized as an honorary colonel by the Salvation Army, one of only 8 people worldwide to ever receive that honor. And here is what I love about doing this podcast. I get to learn right alongside you. So when Dick mentioned Rathgeber Village during our interview, I didn't realize at first the scope of it. Later, I dug in and wow. Back in 2008, Dick and his wife, Sara, donated 17.6 acres in Mueller. Today, that land houses the Austin Children's Shelter, SAFE, Big Brothers and Sisters, and the Salvation Army. On the surface, it looks like just another set of buildings, but in reality, it's powerhouse nonprofits sharing space and serving families every single day. That is a deal that keeps paying dividends. Whether you're a nonprofit leader, curious about how one of Austin's largest donor thinks, a business person looking for a masterclass in deal making, or simply someone rethinking how to give your time, money, or talent, this episode is for you. Courtney, Dickie, and I have often talked about the themes of galas, giving, volunteering, and the role of wealth and community. But this time we get to see those themes through the eyes of someone who's lived it at the highest level. What stood out most to me is how Dick understands influence. Think Dale Carnegie, which we mentioned in this interview. You've heard me talk about the 5 T's, which I heard first from Piper Stuggy Nelson of I Live Here, I Give Here: time, treasure, talent, testimony, and ties. And wow, Dick has mastered the ties. And it's not just about gathering wealthy people in a room to ask for money, which sometimes it is, but it's also about connecting nonprofits with the right resources at the right time. One powerful example showing the type of man Dick Rathgeber is, in 2003, when anti-abortion activists pressured contractors to walk off the job at Planned Parenthood's South Austin clinic, the project stalled. Dick, a deeply religious man and the son of a Lutheran minister, agonized over this decision, but after talking with his pastor, he decided the right thing to do was help. He connected the organization to get their money back from the original contractor and found another one willing to finish the job. He later said, "I strongly believe in the rights of poor people to healthcare, including birth control." And those ties in action, not just fundraising, but leveraging influence and relationships and conviction to get things done, that is what Dick is all about. Dick's giving is guided by heart. He lives by the value that when you help yourself, you must also help others. And I think we should all live by that mantra. Before we dive in, I want to share a few lines from the foreword of his book because they capture him perfectly. Quote, "In philanthropy, the adversary is poverty, hunger, homelessness, sick kids. Dick Rathgeber applies his deal-making prowess, his energy, and his connections to take those adversaries head on. Another quote, "Tithing's not enough, no matter what your income is." And on that note, philanthropy isn't about vast fortunes. A person who isn't generous with a little won't be generous with a lot. And one of my favorites, when you give to a cause, you become invested. Compassion doesn't just inspire giving, sometimes it follows it, which is why Dick has mentioned over and over again that he likes to speak loudly about his giving. He likes to share. He likes to put it in the media. He wants the maximum impact, and he wants to influence and inspire giving to others. So with no further ado, here's my conversation with Dick Rathgeber. I hope you enjoy.
One of the gifts I was given is that I can talk to anybody. I can talk to the lowest yard man here, and I can get that on his level. I'm just one of the boys. Or I can talk to Lady Bird Johnson. I got her to give $1 million for her wildflower center. And what happened is, in getting people to give money, it's all based on trust. And I tell these young people, I mentor, and I tell them that you always tell the truth. You can tell the truth 99 times and get caught lying once, and you've lost all your credibility. The only thing they're going to remember is when you lied to them. I had one guy, he brought me a contract to sign, and he had the front page and the back page. And I said, "Oh, well, where's the rest of it?" And he said, "Oh, it's what you sign all the time." And I said, "I want to see the middle part." He brought the middle part to me, and it was supposed to be that I didn't have any more liability than the money that I put out. And he had me being liable for everything. And we had 4 or 5 deals going. And so I said, "You go get this straightened out." So he did. I signed it. We got through, and we made good money. And I said, "Okay, we're through. We're done." "You mean I made you lots of money?" I said, "Yeah, but you tried to cheat me."
Well, let's talk about you for a minute. I actually wrote up a little intro, and then you can tell me afterwards how accurate it is, and then we can go from there.
All right, that's fine.
Okay. This episode's a little different. We're not just escaping into a cause. I'm sitting down with someone who has built a lifetime of them. Dick Rathgeber is a lot of things: a real estate developer, a philanthropist, an author, and if you've spent any time in Austin, you've likely felt the ripple effect of something he's helped build or fund, whether you knew it or not. He was born in 1933, which makes him 92 years old, and he's still moving with the kind of energy and purpose that would tire someone half his age. I know this because I defined time during his busy schedule to schedule this interview. Dick built a life rooted in hard work and deep generosity. He helped shape the physical landscape of Austin with developments like Avery Ranch and Lost Creek, and then turned that success into something even more powerful: a relentless commitment to giving back.
And then there's another one that's called Headwaters. It was the headwaters of Barton Creek. I tended to pick the most environmentally sensitive pieces of land because that's where the beauty is. You got to have water. I learned enough about subdividing that I could drive on a piece of land and I could do numbers in my head, and within 5 minutes I'd know whether I'd try to buy it or not. It's just this side of Dripping Springs, and it has a tremendous amount of Barton Creek frontage, and they had either 2 or 3 deals bust on them. I had the agent set up a meeting with owners, and the leader of the owners group was a hotshot lawyer in Houston who was the grandson of the first dean of the law school in Texas. And it was apparent from the start that he was the decision maker. And that's what you always want to determine is to begin with. Now, who's going to make the decision? And all their lives, these other 13, because it was all equal shares, had been told how rich they were and how this land was going to bring them lots of money. So the first thing I did is I had one of these big, heavy 3-page checkbooks. It's about that thick. And I brought that to the meeting and I plopped it down on the table. And I said, I'm here to try to buy you land if we can get together on all the terms. Now, here's what works for me. I didn't say I can't pay but this much, I can't pay that much. Here is what works for me. And it was a $12 million deal and about 13 or 1,400 acres. See, I was going to go to law school when I came down here, and I went to one class. And the guy said, look to the right and look to the left, because 2/3 of you won't be back next year. And if you don't have a burning desire to study the law, you don't belong here. Well, I didn't have any burning desire. It was just a step in the educational process. And so I went back up on the hill and got a degree in economics. And all these things, all the ability that you got and everything is given to you. That's a gift of God, from God, and it's up to you not to waste it. And that's why I'm smart, but I'm not brilliant. But I can read people.
If you can read people, you can influence people.
Oh, yeah. And just figured out what that guy, what was he afraid of? What did you want to have to go back for the third or fourth time and say it blew up again? And so I never had met these people in my life. And in an hour, we reached an agreement. And he said, we got a computer operator here. We can drive a contract right now. And I said, now you need to understand one thing. When you sign that contract, I'm not going to give you $100,000 escrow. I'm going to give you $100,000 down payment. And that money is good in the morning. If you want to go buy you a new Rolls Royce or whatever you want to do, you got the money to do it. The check's good. And so they brought a computer. I made a $12 million deal in an hour. And the way I did it is I told him, I said, I don't know anything at all about commercial development. And you've got about 175 acres of commercial frontage. It's a mile and 3/4 on 290, which is a U.S. highway. All I'm interested in is about the 1,000 acres in the back, because that's what I do is housing subdividing. You have to have utilities. I'm on a form of MUD, a municipal utility district, and I will put you in there, and I will give you $7 million for the back part. So that leaves you with $5 million in the front, and you'll make some more money on that.
What year was this?
This was about 12 years ago. I had already done Lost Creek, and I'd already done Avery Ranch. I have developed several pet phrases that I like to use when I sit down. I negotiate from your side of the table. Now, what are you looking for? How much money do you want to make? And what do you want to do? And then I try to figure out, all right, how can I structure the deal that gets them what they want? Everybody needs to come out. If it's not a good deal for everybody, it's no good for anybody. And if somebody asks him, what was it like doing business with Dick Rathgeber? Oh, it was just a piece of cake, because I was as much interested in how they came out as I was how I came out.
You said it before the mics turned on, that the first half versus the second half of your life.
Be significant.
Is to be significant. Can you say that line again?
The first half, you're trying to be successful. And the second half, you're trying to be significant. The only problem is you don't know what half is. Nobody's told you. And I figured out that nobody could tell me how I was going to take this money with me. And the best thing that I could do for my kids was not give them fish, but teach them how to fish. And so all three of my kids are very successful.
Maybe this is a good segue. Billionaires are a hot topic right now in media and the news. Elon Musk, Mark Zuckerberg, they have billions of dollars. Lots of money, very rich. What made you think that you want to give so much back instead of giving it back to your family through inheritance?
That's a good question. I raised my kids. I made them go to church every Sunday.
How many children do you have, Dick?
3 and 7 grandchildren. Sarah had been out of college 4 years before we got married. She's 5 years behind me in college and 4 years younger. And I'd always heard that the brains came from the mother, so I married a very intelligent woman. She had a master's in library science with honors from the university.
It takes a smart man to marry a smart woman, or so I tell my husband.
That's the way you put it. That's true. That's true.
Yeah, I love to hear that. I struggle with people hoarding wealth and then giving it all to their children. I think there needs to be a more effective way, because at the end of the day, it's not really helping your children to give it all if you accumulate a lot of wealth.
Actually, I'm not leaving really anything. I'm helping them, but they got to pay me back. Like buying a house today for a grandchild is almost impossible. And so what I have done is bought the house and then sold it to him at a very favorable 3.5% interest, which is all I can get on a CD anyway. I take some money out of him, 20 or 30% down payment. And then I give him a 3.5% note, and that means that his total payment, including his taxes and insurance, are about what he would have to pay to rent an apartment.
It's really impressive and admirable that you're balanced between giving back and giving just within your own level.
I'm not just giving it to him.
Yeah, no, that's great.
You ever hear of Dave Snyder, the tennis coach?
I haven't. I should know more sports names.
Where'd you go to school?
I went to UT.
You just had a good time.
No, I had both of my children when I was in college. So I wasn't just having a good time, I was raising a family. I was doing things a bit backwards.
Or what sorority were you in?
No sorority. I was asked to be in one and I said, do y'all allow kids? No sorority. I've done everything very backwards, Dick. But going back real quick though, I want to talk about how the fact that you're 92 and you've had a long and rich life with building, giving, and leading. If you had to describe a common thread that's through all of it, work, your giving, your values, what would it be?
All right. And you said, what made you give your money away?
Yes.
I figured out tax-wise that you can give away 50% of your adjusted gross income and not pay any tax on it.
You're getting into the self-serving aspect of giving, which I think is worth talking about, because this goes back to, do you remember when we were talking about anonymity, anonymous giving?
Yeah.
So on this show, we typically encourage people to quote unquote brag, to talk to others about the giving that they're doing because it might inspire others. Because we think it's important for others to hear what giving looks like in real life. And when you think about people who give anonymously without putting their name on it, there's some people who think, oh, good, they're doing it from the good of their heart. But I would say there's a lot of reasons why people do good, and it can be mutual, where you both benefit. And I think that's some of the best giving back that there is.
To begin with, I pick my spots.
Your causes, the nonprofits?
I pick where I'm going to give.
Let's talk about that for a minute. Why do you choose the organizations you choose?
Most people who ask for money don't know a damn thing about money. They have a friend, and the friend says, oh, I need for you to give to my cause.
And I'm sure that's happened to you your whole life.
How many times? How many times a week? And I make them show me their books. Or
the Form 990? Or do you get into the details?
Oh, I get into the details. Mm-hmm. So that helps me when I find a big donor and ask them, say, for $1 million. I say that you need to know that I follow the money. I don't get involved in something that is very speculative as to whether it'll get going. And I give the things that I'm interested in.
What interests you and why?
Women and children are hard to turn down. They do not have a voice for themselves.
Call from Lieutenant Dempsey.
All right. Yeah, I'm sorry, but I do everything on the phone. I don't even know how to turn a computer on.
That's okay.
And I can project over the phone that this is somebody I want to help. And I don't ever ask for any money over the phone. And I don't ask somebody for money usually if it can be avoided that I hadn't met. So what I'll do is find out who their friends are and then say, I need to meet your friend so and I need to take the two of you to lunch. And then that's the main reason I belong to the Headliners is that they have about 4 little private dining rooms that seat a maximum of 10 people. And when I'm going for the big money, I ask them to bring one person along or not over two. And I may or may not bring somebody. I will probably bring somebody from the agency, but it will be somebody that I have supported in the past.
Are you talking about asking for money for a deal or a nonprofit?
It's for a nonprofit. A deal, you're strictly on your reputation.
So, Dick, you seem to be really good at making deals that aren't just benefiting individuals' pockets, but you go and you influence others to donate to organizations
Well,
and
yeah,
causes.
see, that's the thing. I'm sure you know what I do with most of my money. And most of it goes to charity because nobody has ever been able to tell me how I was going to take it with me. That I've never seen an armored car in a funeral procession. And so if you can structure it where you don't have to use very much of your own capital. Now, see this piece out, and well, there's all kinds of deductions. The city of Austin had joined the land that I bought. Are you familiar with Rathgeber Village? Have you been out to Rathgeber Village?
I haven't.
I paid $1 million for the whole thing, and I kept it 13 months. You have to have it at least a year before you can take the deduction. And it appraised for $3.2 million. And I just paid $1 million for the whole thing. And see, then I turned around and gave this land to Safe. Have you heard of Safe Place?
I have. They have an incredible reputation. And to be clear, SAFE is for women and children. It's a great organization.
And that's what they were when they were on Enfield Road. And they just had 2 houses, and kids were running out in the street. And a friend of mine, they had remodeled one of the houses. They had $500,000 in indebtedness, and they didn't have a clue as to how they were going to get the money. So I went to one of their board meetings, and an architect was the chairman of the board. And I said, all right, I'm prepared to give you $125,000, and I'll raise the rest of the money for you. And he says, can we let you know? I says, hell no, you can't let me know. If you're not smart enough to know that this is a terrific deal for you, I'm not sure I want to work for you.
And then they accepted.
They accepted on the spot.
Yeah. What makes you, is it just because of your circle of the people that you know that makes you so confident and I want to influence my dollars? I'll influence them more if other people put dollars towards the same initiative?
Because I've done so many different things, and not all of them were winners, because actually you learn a lot more from the losers than you do from the winners. Because the winners, oh, that's because I'm so damn smart.
That you know how to influence people, you know how to talk to people.
I know how to talk to people, and I know the highest to the lowest. One of my best friends over here is a yard man. He's got some kind of lip disease or something, and he's one of the first people we met when I moved over here. And every time I see him, I call him by name. Dale Carnegie said, now, you know who Dale Carnegie is.
I do. How to win friends and influence people.
All right. The biggest thing that he said was that the sweetest sound to anybody is the sound of their own name. So I make a great effort to learn their name. And when I see them, call them their name by name before I could even see their name tag. If they can hear somebody call their name, it's light up like a Christmas tree.
Call them by their name?
Call them by name.
Yeah.
So I know you can get this done, James. I know you know how to get it done. Here's what I need.
Yeah.
And you're actually recognizing them as somebody who's got some authority.
You're empowering them.
Empowering them. I know who makes the decisions. They like me and they trust me.
Yeah. You also have helped this Hope Home program for people with intellectual and development disabilities that cannot live on their own.
There's nothing in the world they can possibly do for you other than make you feel good.
And this is a situation where there's no giving a hand up. It's a giving a handout because that's what society needs to do for people who cannot take care of themselves.
Well, but even a lot of them are not capable of taking a hand up.
Correct. That's why I'm saying there are times, because you hear that all the time, hand up versus hand out, which I think there's a time and place for that distinguishment. But there's people that just need a handout, and that's okay. And as a community, as a society, I think acknowledging that and identifying when there needs to be a handout, like in this program. And you were telling me it's duplexes where there's 5 rooms in each duplex, correct? Where it's 4 people that get to live together that have the intellectual disabilities. They cannot take care of themselves. And then 1 caretaker.
There's a caregiver on duty 24 hours a day. So you have 3 for each day.
Yeah. And that's something that's close to your heart that you've donated to recently, other than SAFE. Did you also donate to Big Brothers and Big Sisters at some point?
Yeah, Big Brothers, Big Sisters.
At UT, right?
I gave about $1 million piece. I have a partner in the Rio Grande Valley. That's where I really made my money, was down in the Rio Grande Valley selling. It's very difficult for Hispanics to acquire land, and they just don't ever get quite enough cash to do it. So what we do is we sell it to them for $690 down, and then we minimalize the restrictions. We say you can build anything you want to. You can put a mobile home on there. We want to inspect it first, make sure it's not just a piece of junk. And they come up with it some way. They get the whole family together and they get the 600. And we have a gal down there that's the best negative salesperson that I've ever seen.
What does that mean?
She used negative terms like, I don't have time to show you the land. You come in and you get a plat and you go find the subdivision, which is about a half a mile from here. And if a lot's got an X on it, that means it's sold. She said, now, there's going to be a lot of people mad because I only got 93 lots ready now. And I got 700 people on the waiting list. And she sold them 93 lots in 2 weeks. And I didn't know you could write contracts that fast.
Was it a good deal for the buyers? It sounds like it was. It was low down payment.
It was low down payment and low monthly payment. See, it was the same monthly payment as they would pay rent in a mobile home park. And when they paid rent in a mobile home park, they didn't have anything because the person could kick them out anytime they wanted to. And here, they own it.
Yep, I think that's great. We'll be right back. Escape into a Cause is sponsored by Nightlight Insurance Agency. You know how a nightlight gives you comfort and peace of mind in the dark? That's exactly what Nightlight aims to do. Guide you through life's uncertainties with personalized insurance for your home, auto, business, and more. Nightlight Insurance strives to provide its clients the best coverage at the best price without sacrificing on customer service. Here's what one client had to say. Nightlight was able to lower our car insurance significantly, answered all our questions, and returned our calls promptly. Very professional, would highly recommend. So it's no surprise Nightlight has a 5-star rating on Google. Nightlight also makes this podcast possible by covering production costs so all other sponsorship dollars and gifts can go directly to nonprofits and volunteers. And as part of their mission to give back, Nightlight proudly donates $1,000 to every nonprofit we interview. If you are a sponsor interested in giving back to our podcast, please find us on social media and let us know. Nightlight is an agency focused on personalized service and giving back. See how much you could save and how good it feels to have peace of mind by visiting nightlightinsurance.com. I'm curious, Dick, what advice do you give for someone who's in their 20s or 30s and they are nowhere near real estate? They are not going to make a big deal. They are just working a job or they are starting a business.
You got to give what you got. And at that age, you're just trying to get by. So obviously, you can't give money. But every one of these organizations needs volunteers.
That's right.
And so you figure out how you want to volunteer and then just be the best volunteer they ever had. So that once you finish this volunteer thing and they need a board member, somebody on the board, they will immediately think of you.
Yep. And so once they're making money, they know which nonprofits to give back.
They know what the nonprofit is about, and they know how they can influence how the nonprofit is run.
And then once you're at a more financially secure place, do you just go by a rule of thumb of 10%, like tithing, or do you say just give back what you can? What are your thoughts?
Tithing wouldn't come close to what we give. Right now it's 50, 60, 70%.
How old were you when you started making that shift to about 50% of your income?
I was in my early 30s probably.
Okay. Yeah, that's young.
Yeah, I've been doing it a long time.
You have been doing it a long time. Okay, a couple more questions. Say I'm a nonprofit and I care about my own cause. I'm working hard for, I need to go to donors. I need to go to wealthy individuals and ask for money. What is the selling point, or what is the way in which nonprofits can ask for money, and how can they position it to do fundraising that's sustainable for the work that they're doing? What is your advice?
You need to have a history with that organization. And you get that history by visiting different kinds of organizations. And so till you find one, and it just happens that I met a bunch of women and children, single mothers and children. And the first thing to remember is that most of the people that get involved on a board don't know a damn thing about business. And it's very difficult to get a prominent businessman to agree to serve on a board. And so that's what kind of makes me unique, because I'm a successful businessman, making them run their organization in a business-like manner.
It has to be, right? And you have to be more strategic when you're dealing with less money, right?
That's right.
Yeah. And the difference between a for-profit and a nonprofit is you're for-profit, you're selling a product or a service. Nonprofit, you're selling your story of impact. And you have to be able to sell, not only go and make that impact, but be able to sell that. That's what keeps the lights on, is being able to influence others that you're making
of course,
an
you
impact.
try to get them to know some of the kids. You get them to volunteer.
Bring them into your cause, get them involved.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that makes big brothers, big sisters successful, is that they have to agree to spend so much time every month with that kid.
Okay, so one question that I wrestle with all the time is, where should the responsibility to help others fall? There's individuals, there's businesses, and there's government. Do you have some thoughts about who should be taking care of others?
Let's start out with government, and basically that's a negative. You don't have the clout. You have to have somebody on your board that has some insights into a government grant, and have somebody who's a grant writer.
Yeah, and the government has two ways to give. They can have programs directly through, say, welfare, or they can give through grants and give back to nonprofits to go and spend and be good stewards of those funds.
Yeah.
Going to businesses versus individuals.
Some, you can't separate one from the other. The business is smaller. Now, recently I was a capital campaign chairman for Helping Hand.
Uh-huh.
And my daughter was the incoming president. And one of the guys was interviewing and had him down to headliners and stuff was the head of Terminex. Somebody said he can give $250,000, so that's what we got. And then somebody else owned a title company, and his wife was very active in the organization. So this would ensure him being able to keep sleeping in the big bed. And we asked him for $500,000 and got it. But we had given $1 million.
See, that's what I don't understand how you're able to do that, Dick. How are you able to go and influence other people with money to give back? How are you presenting it to them?
I don't even talk about money. I talk about what a satisfaction. You know, this business about, oh, I want to remain anonymous and everything. Well, you're not using it because if people have read about it in the newspaper and what the project's all about and everything, and so that's why I am super nice to reporters. I give them tips and I may set the rules.
You're not shy of being exposed as a philanthropist. You want your name on the building.
I want people to think of me as that's a guy that gets things done. You don't have to worry about giving to that project because it's going to get done. It's the point that they're making full use of their gift. See, if I give $1 million, I expect it to raise $5 million.
In terms of matching or matching?
And I don't refer to it as a gift anymore. I refer to it as a challenge grant. That if you can find 4 more people, or we can find 4 more people that'll give $1 million, I'll give $1 million once you've got them signed up. You just find another prospect to call on. Yep. And the way to find prospects is to find somebody who's already given and go to them and say, all right, now here's where we are, and here's what we need. And who do you know that we could go see? And we want to be able to use your name. We want to be able to use your name that you're a contributor. A lot of times you'll get 8 or 10 prospects just out of one donor. And see, you don't start asking for money until you picked all the low-hanging fruit. You get the ones that are interested and get them on board before you even announce that you're having a capital campaign. Because the average big donor, his biggest fear or her biggest fear is I'm going to give that money and it's just going to sit in the bank. And so you have to have it where it's going to be a success.
And where there's something specific that these funds are going towards.
They want to know, have you got the site? Where are you going to build it? What is it going to cost? And if you really want to get serious, and it's $1 million project, and you can put any name on it that you want.
Okay, so if nonprofits are listening right now, okay, and they're asking for funds, right? I talk to one every single week. I've talked to Yellow Bike Project, Carrying Hope with Foster Care, Art from the Streets to get people off the streets and to find meaning in life. I talk to all these amazing nonprofits, and they're all doing a lot of good work here in Central Texas. What is your last maybe piece of advice for them when trying to raise funds for these really great causes?
Gerald Mann, he started Riverbend.
Okay.
He had University Baptist downtown, and they got to be too conservative for him, so he started Riverbend out on 360.
Yep.
And they asked him to be the baccalaureate speaker. And he said, it's the attitude, not the aptitude, that determines the altitude. Have you heard that one?
I haven't, but it's great.
Oh, it's good. It's the attitude, not the aptitude, that determines the altitude.
I like it.
So you have to instill in them, the person they're asking for money, they're really doing them a favor because you've already made your money. Now you need to make your good name. If I've done my homework and I know the money's there, the way you do it is when you get ready for the actual ask, if the money hadn't come up, you say, I would like for you to consider $20,000 a year for 5 years. See, that sounds like a lot less money than $100,000.
And on that note, do you look at giving to nonprofits the same as you look at like your return on investment in, say, stocks or real estate? Do you look at whether you diversify or whether you put a lot of funds towards just a select few causes? How do you look at your impact of your dollars?
Well, you may go in and help one group because there's another group over here that you want to collaborate. And once you develop a reputation of being able to get money, raise money, you don't need to worry about whether you're going to have enough to do.
What are your thoughts on galas? Do you like attending galas? That's a topic that we've been talking about lately.
What you're doing there is asking for a small amount, but so many of the galas spend way over 50%.
And Dick, you're all about the numbers. And you think that's not the most efficient way to fundraise. Am I hearing that correctly? Is that right?
Yeah, but the key is to have a good enough cause. Say you're going to ask them for $100,000. We would like for you to be the major sponsor of our gala. And you hadn't even mentioned what the money is.
Okay.
Yeah, because I'm involved because Sara tells me, that's what you're going to do. And, there again, it's about a collaboration. I'm very active in the Salvation Army.
Yes, I wanted to talk about that because you said that you are a big donor of the Salvation Army and they have a truck education program, I believe. Do you want to speak to that?
His name, Madeline Murray O'Hare, mean anything to you?
No, but man, you have a knack for names. You know them all. It does not.
They passed through my life. She was an atheist, and she didn't want the city to help the Salvation Army because it would be a violation of church and state. So she was going to file a lawsuit. So I had this land, and I got my partner to agree that we would give 100 acres. We got the guy that owned the land, and he was a gambler. And he had a card game upstairs and everything. I never had met him, but I said I want to take him to lunch and show him some land. So I had the plat, and his name was Johnny Joseph. The big Joseph family, the big Joseph family, lots of them. And I said, Uncle Johnny, the Salvation Army has got a problem. And there's only two people in Austin that can fix it. And they're both in the same car at the same time. So we've got $1 million, and you want $3 million for your site down on 7th Street. So you take this plat and you draw a line and how many acres it's got to be for this. You swap that, we give you $1 million in this land. And so he drew a line, and I got so excited. I said, let's draw the contract on the survey plat. And I wrote down, Johnny Joseph, will sell my piece of land on 7th Street for $3 million and with $1 million cash and this land with a value of $2 million. I got so excited, I wrote 1,000. And he tapped me on the shoulder and he said, hey, Papa, so you 3 zeros short. And that was front page news. And once you get on the front page and you've done something good, then you become a personality. This paper refers to you as being a notable. And they have a special file down there that if I died tomorrow, I would make that special file. I would get a write-up other than just a paid obituary.
Last thing I'll just share with you is that the whole business and philanthropic giving, that's just been my experience this year, is that last year was the first year that my husband and I decided, let's go a lot bigger with how much we're donating. So every week this year when I'm doing this show, his business is donating $1,000 to each guest. And so we've committed at least $60,000 this year for donations. And
well, to you, he must be do pretty well.
He's doing okay. Yeah. If I also work. So if you were to just look at his finances, you'd go, wow, that's a big percentage of your business. But of course, we can position it in the way that we're positioning it because of cause marketing so that we know 100% we can deduct it. So there's no itemized versus standard. So there's the tax benefit. It's always hard for me to talk about his business because the primary driver of this show is because I want to get other people involved with nonprofits. I want to highlight nonprofits and kind of tiptoe around, oh, he's the sponsor, but he pays for all the podcast costs, pays for the donations. Anyway, I've become much more confident even since talking to you about being unapologetic. Put
Now,
your name
where
out
did you
there. Yeah. Yeah.
Some of it doesn't come directly to you. You got to look at it from the standpoint of what's the greater good. Now, symphony, they have a call in. They I give them $100 just so I say I support the symphony because it's not important to me. There are three main categories that people give to. They give to education, and that's usually big. And they give to the arts, like the symphony, and then they give to human need. And we're human need givers.
Yeah, that's what I was interested in, is you love giving back to human needs. Everyone has their own cause that's dear to them.
And they figure it out. I don't get bothered by arts givers much.
But we all have our own interests. Yeah. I'll tell you, Maya Angelou, the poet, said, I'm paraphrasing, but you don't remember what people said. You remember how they made you feel. And I just know that in my lifetime, when I've been given anything, I was given a scholarship where a woman wrote me a note. Her husband had passed away. She wrote me a nice note of why she gave me a scholarship when I was at UT. And I don't even remember how much she gave me. I just remember how it made me feel. It made me feel very grateful and appreciative. And so I think, Dick, you've made a lot of people feel really good. And your positive influence has been spread across Austin and I'm sure has inspired countless people.
See, to me, it's just a big game.
It's a big game.
Big game. And my mind works 24 hours a day. I go to bed with a problem, and sometime in the middle of the night, the solution will come to me.
You're a problem solver.
I get it done. I'm not the biggest philanthropist. I'm in the top three in Austin, but I have not given so much money as I've made deals.
I've got a question for you. How many more deals are you trying to make in the nonprofit world?
They drop in my lap. I am not consciously trying to make any more deals. I came over here thinking that I want to retire, and there's a Hope House.
This is the one where you have recently donated with the duplexes,
Yeah,
correct?
3 duplexes. A guy up there who is a fundraiser, he wrote 75 letters, just people that he picked up names. He got one reply.
It was you.
That was me.
And he wrote you a letter.
He wrote me a letter.
Wow. Do you know what the number one reason is why people give back, give money? It's because they were asked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right now, I'm in the stage of life where I want to leverage everything at least 5 times. In other words, if I gave you $10,000, I need to be able to raise it. That needs to turn into 50.
In terms of raise towards the nonprofit.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep. That makes sense.
See, I don't go out and start things. I find one. I picture myself as being a big wrecker that's going down the road, and I don't get a call most of the time until it's in a ditch. And then I pull it out of the ditch. Just like the people from the Wildflower Center came to me because I knew the Lady Bird's administrative assistant. I'd known her a long time. Her daddy was LBJ's roommate in college at Southwest Texas. And so they took me to lunch and they said, Ms. Johnson is starting to get a little long in the tooth, and she's not going to be able to keep doing these galas all the time. And we need some ideas about how we can raise money for an endowment, like $15 million. And so I said, what do you come up with so far? We were thinking about selling packages of wildflower seeds. And I said, man, that would take you forever. I said, she's got one of the Rockefellers on her board, Carolyn said, we can't ask her for that. We work for her. And I said, I'll ask her, but I want a neutral site. I don't want to go to her as a supplicant. So I'll buy lunch at the Headliners, and we'll get a private room, and I'll make the ask. And so we had a nice lunch, and I said, Ms. Johnson, you are going to need some money to maintain this wildflower center, and you need about $15 million. And what you're going to need to do is go back to your board. You got a pretty prominent board, and ask each one of them for $1 million, but you got to give the first $1 million. And she said, oh, I could do that or not. Ask my friends to give money like that. And I said, Ms. Johnson, I just asked you for $1 million. She said, yeah, but you're so self-assured. And I got to thinking, she doesn't know that there were 16 in my high school graduating class, and I never had high school chemistry or physics. So it's in an attitude, not the attitude determines the altitude.
Dick, I loved chatting. I think that you're fantastic. Thank you so much for taking the time. And
Well, you call me anytime.
I appreciate you talking with me and sharing your wisdom and philanthropy and business deals.
You gotta look at it this way: is all you're trying to do is be significant.
Life is not worth living unless you find some meaning and purpose in it.
That's right, and that's what being significant is.
I love that. Dick, thank you so much. You are an icon. You have given so much, and I really appreciate it. We'll continue the conversation. Ladies and gentlemen, that is Dick Rathgeber. One of my favorite things about older generations is that trust goes a long way. Dick started our conversation by reminding us that honesty is worth more than money. Dick lives by those principles and believes honesty always wins out. Even the man who made him a lot of money, Dick refused to shake his hand again after trying to slip hidden details into a contract. In the spirit of Dick always offering quick quips, his story reminded me of one. A lie might win the day, but the truth wins a lifetime. So be honest in your personal life, your business life, and in your giving. As Dick himself put it, I wouldn't call myself rich. Lots of people have more money than I do. The trick is to take whatever your talents are and use them for charity. In my case, I guess that's chasing a deal. So whatever your talent is, listen to Dick and use your talents for good. For over 60 years, Dick has been investing that kind of trust in Austin, and that's why people want to work with him, not just in real estate, but in philanthropy. He is proof that the best deals aren't about taking, but about building something bigger than yourself. And that's how I like to see capitalism at work. Honesty over cheating, smarts over brilliance, negotiating from the other side of the table. I think Dick Rathgeber and Adam Grant may have something in common when Adam Grant talks about this otherish notion, because as Dick puts it, if it's not a good deal for everybody, it's not a good deal for anybody. Or to borrow another timeless line, it's the attitude, not the aptitude, that determines the altitude. And with that, thank you to Nightlight Insurance Agency for presenting Escape into a Cause. Thank you to Todd Thompson for editing and mixing, Graham Thompson and Jaden Dyer for the music, and Ashlyn O'Neill for digital content. We'll see you next week as we escape into Austin Parks Foundation.